Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be continuing to do some questions related to simple interest, but questions where we don't necessarily calculate just the simple interest, but also calculate things like the interest rate, things like the number of periods of time that have passed, things like the overall principal, that sort of thing. So the total amount paid once we fully pay off a debt is going to be the principal, so the original amount that we borrowed. Of course, we have to pay that back, plus however much was paid in interest, right? Which interest is extra money to compensate the lender for the lender lending out their money and therefore for a certain time period being unable to use it for other things. So here's an example. A patron borrows $3,000 at a simple interest rate at 5% annually. What is the total amount they have to pay after 3 years? Okay, so first we need to calculate the interest they had to pay, and then we have to add that to the original amount they borrowed because they must pay the 3,000 that they borrowed back plus however much interest would have accrued over that time. So, as a reminder, the way to calculate simple interest is by multiplying CIN, where C is the original principal or capital. So C in this case is going to be $3,000. And then I is the interest rate, which is 0.05, so 5% annually. And then N is the number of periods that have passed, the number of interest periods. Since this is an annual interest rate, that means that N is going to be 3 because it's a total of 3 years that the money is being borrowed for. So that's going to give us $3,000 times 0.05 times 3. So if I grab my calculator to figure out what that's going to be, that is going to give us 3,000 times 0.05 times 3 is $450. So therefore, the total amount of interest that this patron would have to pay is $450. And then we have to figure out, okay, well, how much is the total amount they have to pay back? So the total amount they have to pay back is going to be equal to the original principal plus the interest, which is equal to $3,000. That's how much they originally borrowed, plus the extra fee for borrowing of $450. So therefore, the final answer is $3,450. So that is the answer for how much they would have to pay back after 3 years. All right, and here's a second example. The bank agrees to pay you 4% annual simple interest on your balance. If you put $12,500 into your bank account in January of 2023, how much would you have in January of 2030, assuming you do not make any additional deposits or withdrawals? Okay, so in this case, first we need to find the interest that is going to accrue on this balance of $12,500. So interest is equal to CIN, where C is the original capital that we put in the account. So that's going to be $12,500. The interest rate they're paying is 4%. So in decimal form, that's 0.04. And then the number of periods that have passed. Well, in this case, it's an annual interest rate. So each period is going to be a year. We put this money in January of 2023, and we want to know how much will be there in 2030, which is 7 years later. So that means that N is going to be 7 for 7 years in this case. So therefore, the interest is going to be equal to $12,500 times 0.04 times 7. So let's see how much interest we're going to get for this money. If we multiply those, we get $3,500, which is not bad. Also not that great, right? There are certainly investments with higher returns than that higher than 4%. And then therefore they ask, how much would the total be? So the total in the account is we would still have the 12,500 that we originally put into the account. Plus, we would also have the additional 3,500 that the bank paid us over the course of those 7 years. So in total, that is going to equal to $16,000. And there we go. All right, let's do another one. This one says the amount of capital of $35,000 is invested at a simple interest rate. The total amount after 4.5 years is 43,600. What is the simple interest rate? Okay, so first of all, we need to figure out how much interest we earned on this money overall. So as we know, the interest earned is going to be equal to the overall amount, right? The total amount minus the capital. Now, how do we know that? Because before we said that the total amount of money overall is equal to the principal or capital plus the interest. So, therefore, if we just do a simple rearranging of the equation, we get this equation. So, therefore, the interest that was accrued here would be $43,600 minus $35,000, right? Because everything that's accrued that's in the account is either interest or principal. The principal is 35,000 of that. So therefore the other 8,600 of that must be interest. So overall the total amount of interest accrued here is $8,600. So we know that interest is $8,600. We also know that the original capital invested is $35,000. We also know that the amount of time that passed is 4.5 years, and we want to know the simple interest rate. So we know that C, the capital, is equal to, that the interest is equal to CIN, and we don't know what I is. We don't know what the interest rate is. So this means that that I is equal to I over Cn. If we divide both sides by Cn, that means the interest rate is equal to the interest of $8,600 over $35,000 times 4.5. And let's figure out what that is. So 35,000 times 4.5 gives us 157,500. And that's going to give us about 0.0546. So therefore, the annual interest rate, the annual simple interest rate is 5.46% approximately, because I did round there if that wasn't an exact answer, but that's okay. That's our approximate answer there. All right, and let's do one more. This next one says, what is the interest rate required for $643.92 to earn $76.98 in simple interest from September 8th of 2017 to May 4th of 2019? All right, so let's first write down what we know and what we don't know. So what we don't know is the interest rate. That's what we're trying to find out. We know that the original capital is $643.92. We also know that the interest amount earned is $76.98. And then the number of periods. Well, that's something that we don't know, but that we can figure out based on this. So they're saying that it's from September 8th, 2017 to May 4th, 2019. And keep in mind that there are no leap years during this period. So in this case here, to get from September 8th, 2017 to September 8th of the next year, 2018, is going to be 365 days are going to pass there, right? And then we need to figure out, all right, well, how many more days happen between September 8th and May 4th of the next year. So in September, from September 8th to September 30th, because there's 30 days in September, that is going to be, looks like 22 additional days. So 22 days. Then for October, it's going to be 31 days. November, let's see, November has 30 days. December has 31 days. January has 31 days. February has 28 days. March has 31 days. April is 30. And then May, of course, in May, we're just going up to the 4th, right? Because we're going up to May 4th of the next year of 2019. So we're going to say 4 days. I know there's really more than 4 days in May, but there's only 4 days in May that we're calculating here. So if I add all those up, 22 plus 31 plus 30 plus 31 plus 31 plus 28 plus 31 plus 30 plus 4, that gets me 238 days. So all this together is 238 days, plus 365 from the other one. So overall, it's going to be 603 days. Now the question is, how many years is that? Because they want to know the interest rate required. So presumably that's going to be the annual interest rate. So 603 divided by 365 to get how many years that is. We know it's a year and a bit, so we're going to get 1 point something is what we're expecting. 1.652 days, or years rather, 1.652 years. And so that's going to be our end value here. All right, now let's find out what interest rate is required. So our regular interest equation is that the interest is equal to the capital times the interest rate times the number of periods. So therefore, the interest rate is going to be equal to I over Cn, which is equal to $76.98 over 643.92 times 1.652. And let's see what that is going to be equal to. That's going to be 0.072. So therefore, the interest rate is going to be about 7.2% annually. So that is the interest rate that would be required in order for the $643.92 to earn an additional $76.98 in simple interest. All right, well, that'll be it for this one. Please feel free to let me know if you have any questions down in the comments section, and we'll see you for the next one.